Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Black Blaze Gaming. My name is Dakota, and I wanted to share some thoughts with you on Nightingale. Now, I've been waiting for this game for a long time. I'm a huge fan of the aesthetic for the most part. I think the character, like faces and stuff, they're like weirdly stylized in a world that is highly realistic, and so it's incongruent in a certain sense, but it's not that distracting. Honestly, what really drew me to the game more than that was the other design aspect, the outfits predominantly. I like the gas lamp fantasy thing they're going for. And now that it's finally out, I've played it all day yesterday. And I wanted to delve into a little bit of my thoughts on it so far. I'm here at the login screen with my character Stampy Boogston, and I thought it'd be funny to show this because her eyes are just so fucking wide, and like when I was making her in the character creator, they weren't like that. she just looks like she's in shock all the time. Anytime I open my inventory, that's what I see, and to me that's really funny. Not a big deal to me, but like something I thought was kind of funny. Let me get into this here. The game is, I'm enjoying it. I think the early crafting is pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of like, I don't have a huge issue with carrying materials or anything like that. I don't feel like materials are too cumbersome just yet. I feel like that might become a problem later on. I know when I play the stress test and you're kind of at a higher level of stuff, making any new crafting station or making the parts for crafting stations anyways is really, it's time consuming because there's like a crafting time on everything. And if you're making a tool, it takes almost no time at all. But if you're making lumber out of raw wood, there's a pretty hefty time investment on that, and there's some weird oddities and like inconsistencies in various parts of the game. There's some design aspect I think is really weird. When I initially went into this game, I had understood that it was an independent studio, which okay, yeah, I'd be a little bit more forgiving if it was just a bunch of newbies, to fairly new people to the industry who are putting together their first fairly ambitious survival game. However, when I found out there were ex-BioWare devs, so professionals in the industry, working on this, I set my expectations a little bit higher. And I'm less tolerant of certain basic design aspect, bugs and stuff like that. Totally understandable. It is early access. Certain things will change, and I get that. But there are some sort of very basic things that I would think a professional game dev should probably have known going into this. Now, I wanted to log in on camera here because you can see how long it takes to load into my realm. Now, I live in the same city as the development studio, so the servers are very close to me. I don't have a lot of networking issues, but I will say that the loading screens are pretty rough. Again, early access, so that may change, but in an exploration focused game where you are expected to travel to multiple realms, which take a loading screen each time you travel to them, that's something that might need tuning up quite a bit, I think. And I'm not. It's not like I'm at the minimum PC spec. You can see in my video settings here, I have everything maxed because except for view distance, that was just set to quality for some reason. I haven't changed it because I don't really care about the view distance that much. And I don't think it changes much because the grass still pops in as you're walking, but at a very close range. But I have a really powerful computer. I have a 3080 Ti. I have a Ryzen 9 3900X 12 core at 4 gigahertz, 64 gigs of RAM. I have a monster PC, pretty much, and yet I find that the loading screens are pretty rough, going from place to place. So let me rest up here. Now, they fixed the UI from the stress test. Thank God for that. So your tools are now on the left-hand side of your hotbar, which makes way more fucking sense than having them on the right side. That's totally backwards. I mean, it's made by Western English-speaking people. We read left to right. Why would you not want the most important things in your inventory on the left side of your hotbar, like every other survival game ever made? Just doing things differently for the sake of it doesn't make you special or unique. There's a reason things are designed a certain way. Now, that's not my only issue with the UI. Granted, that, like I said, that's been fixed, so it works now. It makes more sense. The hotbar just, yes, it's more generic, but it functions, and it's sensible. The health bars are nice. I liked them the way they were before, but I like them here too. I don't really have a preference between which one I like more. They're both fine, I think. The missions, like the quests on the right hand side of the screen, they work fine for me. I don't find it too crowding. I do have a pretty big quest on right now, but it's not too bad. But in here is where things start to get a little bit more questionable. Now, I have a pretty big issue with the icons. Because everything has a gray background, it all looks a little too similar at times. And sometimes I'd find myself, so if I move this into my inventory, now you notice that it sorted itself automatically in my inventory. There is no way that I know of to turn that off. There's different sorting methods, but it's just going to be sorted regardless of what you do. So when you take something off your hotbar, put it in your inventory, or you make some new tool, I've actually had a hard time sometimes finding my tools in here. But it's not been that bad. I mean, you can find the number in the corner, the yellow number in the corner. That kind of helps. But it also crowds out the the icon a little bit too. So it's, it's a little weird. But then you have a very strange thing. So you'll notice if I mouse over something, you get this big fancy window. It looks really nice, very well designed, I think. The weird, like, black box at the bottom with the grass and foliage sticking out of it, kind of not a good idea. It looks too busy and can get in the way of the information. It just looks really weird. But even weirder than all of that is at the very bottom of this pop-up, you'll see an options button. But when I take my mouse off the icon, that window goes away, so I can't click on the options. And even if I select the item, it doesn't stay up. So what the fuck is the options button for? I can't use it. And in here, you just right click, and if that's what the options menu would bring up anyways, then what's the point? You could just right click, and this works just fine. This looks nice. There's some missing icons still. Like, they'll fix that. That's an early access thing. It's very common in early access. You have all your player stats over here. A lot more stats than I thought. A lot of ways to modify those stats as well, which is nice. Then you have your map. You have a nice button here to travel back to your house anytime. That is really convenient. Very, very useful to be able to just go back. Even if I'm in a different realm, I could just click this and be gone. And it's instantaneous, which is pretty cool. I think it might not happen if you're in combat, but I don't know for sure. I've never run from combat. I'm a brave boy. Well, I've run from combat, but not using this. Then you have your guidebook, and this is a little bit of a confusing name because the guidebook yet has your glossary, your codex, how to play, but it also has where your crafting and building are. And you have some crafting that can be done in the inventory. Not much. It's early stuff, and then your building is here. I'll get to the building in a second. Party and social, I haven't used this yet. I don't have any friends who play. I haven't sought out randoms to play with. Of course, the settings and then the system. All pretty straightforward. Overall, the UI doesn't bother me too much. The stamina bar comes up. You can see when I sprint. There was also that falling impact. That's a status effect you can get. If I open my menu here, I can also look at my buffs right now. You can see what effects are currently on my character. But yeah, overall, there's definitely some bugs with switching weapons and tools and stuff. You end up. I've had times where I get stuck in a block animation, or I get stuck unable to sprint, stuck on one tool and I can't swap it. I can't swing it even. I'm just stuck on it. Although sometimes going into the menu and exiting will fix it, or alt-tabbing and alt-tabbing back in will fix it. So this is the shelter that I built. This is the first shelter I built. I have not added onto this at all yet. It is just the way it is. And that may seem a little bit ambitious. It was. I nearly died before, or well, I nearly ran out of. I was. My exhaustion meter was almost gone by the time it was finished. But one thing that I think was kind of frustrating about the tutorial, well, not frustrating, but one thing I think was kind of missing from the tutorial is because they tell you to build like certain clothing pieces, but they don't tell you to build a backpack. And the backpack is the most important clothing piece that you have because it increases your carry weight. And carrying logs and stone it takes up a lot of weight in your inventory, and wood weighs as much as stone, I believe, which is really odd, but you would think that it would weigh less. But yeah, 26, they're each 1.5 kilograms, and then actually wood weighs more than stone, so that makes even less sense. Wood does not weigh more than stone. Like it just doesn't. By volume, it does not work like that. Granted, we don't know the volumes of these, so maybe the stone blocks are really small, but it's just a very strange design decision. And you'll notice I have a lot of ingots in here, and I have more in my inventory. I need to actually get rid of these. And I also have a metal plate. That's interesting. So there's a lot of ingots in here, and some of them are almost the same. I have Lacunus and I have Advanced Lacunus, and this is where some of the resource problem that I'm worried about coming into play later in the crafting tier like tree is going to come. Is that there's a lot of versions of items, and you can't stack. So if I look in my inventory here, oh no, it's not. I don't have it. Did I? Okay, I guess I'm missing all my plant fiber. Oh yeah, but you can see I have 3 types of bones. They're all tier 1, but I have tier 1 predator, tier 1 prey, and tier 1 werewolf specifically. Now the reason why there's so many different item types is because each resource that you make, so say if I go over here to my workbench and I want to make a hunting knife, you need 1 stone block, 1 wood bundle, and 2 straps. Now, each of these resources can come from different sources. So if I have a stone block, so in my inventory over here, I have sandstone stone blocks. For wood, I have wood bundle, wood, regular wood. And this one is wood bundle, softwood. Now, these have attribute differences. So basic wood like this won't have any attribute modifiers, but there's specialized wood that you can get from certain sources that will have multipliers like increasing critical damage and stamina efficiency. So if I make my hunting knife, with softwood, it'll get more bonus modifiers to it. So that's a really cool feature. You can make the same hunting knife at the same tier multiple times, but it can have totally different stats, and you can tailor it to your playstyle, which I think is wonderful. That's a great idea. The issue then becomes how much inventory space that ends up taking up. That's a lot of inventory space that could potentially be taken up by having to have multiple types of a single resource, and then probably eventually having to throw them all out to replace them with a higher tier of resource. But not the worst thing. I just hope that they have a way to manage that in the future. As for this building, the building system is really interesting. So if I go into building here, you can see I have all these things. So if I place a foundation, so this is the foundation, like the way that you can place things, it's on a rotation system. It has a pretty sharp snap to it, so you can't really get the most out of rotating things. The fact that you can rotate things and it's super simple is really nice. A lot of games with building don't really have even that, and or it's like a 90-degree snap, which is insane. But at least this one has, a pretty decent rotation system. I think reducing the snap a little bit would be fine. Then you can also, it says you can adjust the height. There is a way to do it, but it just shows the same button prompt, and it's not the same button prompt. It is not. I know from the test build that they had, it was not the same one. I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, you have to hold R. So it doesn't say that. That I didn't notice that before, but that's another UI issue. Well, okay, but you can lower it and raise it, which is this is actually really cool. Obviously, you can't lower it below where it would default to on the ground, which is understandable. But this is really cool. I like that you can do this. But then when I place it down, nothing has changed in my inventory. I haven't lost anything. I haven't spent any resources on it yet. And then I can snap, so you can see all these little icons on here, little hand icons. And if I point my mouse at them, it snaps to those places really easily. The snapping works beautifully in this. And then I could place another foundation, and I could do this infinitely. But but it won't actually use up resources for making that, and it's not actually solid either. But if I look at it, you can see the resources required to build it, and I can add those resources from my inventory as I get them. The amazing thing is that you can build structures basically as big as you want, to plan them out before you build them, and it will automatically tally up the total amount of resources required to build that piece, or that whole building, into one UI element. So you'd never have to go to each individual piece and be like, add resources, and so on. It'll just tally them up in one space, and you can just go up and press E. Even on parts that are already built. So if I had a roof over here that wasn't built yet, I could just press here, and it would add the resources to that. And then you have a nice little wheel here to just change different things. You can remove them. I'm going to remove them because I don't need these. But the build system is really nice. Really like it. There's a lot of building pieces that you can use. Initially, I didn't have the angled roofs, so I had kind of an open space up there, which wasn't good. But building is also influenced and influences things that you place around them. So all these items here. So if I built one of these augmentations, so augmentations are a type of structure. They're usually very small, but they're little structures that you can build, that if you place this down, you can see that it has these green lines going to different structures. And what that is an augmentation will affect various things about nearby structures that it can affect. In some cases, it can reduce craft time. In other cases, it'll unlock new blueprints for you to craft. It's actually a brilliant system. It's quite complex, and I'm curious to see exactly how far I can push it and get some really cool ideas out of it. But very, very cool system. That's why all my stuff is placed in the middle here like this, kind of haphazardly right now, is because I'm trying to get the most out of this. And weirdly enough, if I go into the other build mode, because there's two build modes, there's placement mode and then there's edit mode. Now the edit build mode, you can go in and you can move items around. So if I wanted to move that, I could move it. Now I'm not going to, but because I like it where it is. But for some reason, certain things cannot be moved. My saw table cannot be moved. That can. My workbench can't be moved, so that's why it's still stuck over there. This can be moved, but I don't really have a lot of space, so I'm trying to maximize this. And it had to be placed over there, so it would still affect my workbench, which I can't move for whatever reason. I'll be replacing this workbench with the higher tier one when I get it, so I'm not really worried about it. But that's kind of a weird oversight. I don't know why these certain things can't be moved. Looks like my sewing bench can't be moved either. That's weird because I've moved it before. Maybe there's something else affecting it. I don't know. Maybe it's because I have a candle on it. That's actually probably it. Hold on, let me place that over there. Yeah, that'd be why. Okay, I figured it out. I figured it out, guys. We're good. Let me move this over here. And yeah, I can move that now. God damn it. Here I am. Confused as to why I can't move stuff, and it's my own damn fault. Okay, so we fixed that. I don't want to place that too haphazardly there. Okay, there we go. It's not pretty, but it'll work. Okay, so forget what I said. That actually works fine. It's just not very clear that that's the case. I am going through food like nobody's business. Luckily, food is very easy to come by. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is gear maintenance. Now, you have this thing called essence dust, which there are multiple tiers of, just like every other resource. There's multiple tiers of this essence dust. And essence dust is used to repair your gear. So if I go to repair all, you can see that it costs more essence dust than I actually have. Repairing stuff can get quite expensive. 26 essence dust. Now you can get, if you break a resource or you kill a mob in the wild or whatever, there's a chance it'll drop like 1 essence dust. Now if you do some of the extracurricular stuff, there's some like puzzles you can solve out in the world and stuff, and they will give you a fair bit more than that. Or if you do quests, they can give you a bit more. But I found out the best way to get essence dust is just kind of stupid. Let me get my parasol out here. They call it an umbrella, but I call it a parasol. I don't give a shit. So if I grab some plant fiber, some sticks. All right, so in my inventory here, oh, actually I need to go into my, there we go. So let's see here. Oh no, I'm in building, not crafting. Keep forgetting that. All right. Makeshift items. So if I do makeshift hunting knife, I need to grab some rocks. Okay. There's a lot you can just collect out in the world by hand, which is hilarious because it requires stamina to swing your tools to collect stuff. But certain stuff you can just collect by hand. So if you're early on, just don't even bother swinging your tools. When you run out of stamina, just wait and collect stuff by hand. You don't lose out on much by doing that. All right, let me get back inside here. So that's a bit of a weird climbing hill there. In my crafting, do makeshift hunting knife. And I can craft 2. So those are up here, and then I can extract them into essence dust. Now with the makeshift stuff, it's not really worth it, but with the next tier of tools, which is what I have on my bar. Well, actually, yeah, I have the next tier of tools on my bar. These are worth 15 essence dust, and they only cost 3 materials to make, which if you were to break those 3 materials down into essence dust, you'd only get 3 essence dust. But if you make it into this, it's 15 essence dust. So you just make a bunch of these, break them down, and you can repair all your stuff, and also buy all the blueprints from the essence trader. Probably something they'll change in the future. Essence dust is something that you pretty much need constantly all the time. So at least there's a way to get it easily right now. If I hadn't figured that out, I'd be like probably pretty frustrated with the progression in this game. Yeah. This is an example of one of those puzzle places that you can complete. You get a little temporary bonus from here if you complete it, as well as some essence dust. And you can see some structures. These structures are pretty common. Basically, if you have what's called an abeyance realm, which is where you can build your home, essentially your first home, you build in an abeyance realm. You have all these structures here that allow you to unlock new realm cards that you can play at a realm portal, which I have my own custom portal here that I built. Now this is where you play cards. My portal's currently in standby because I already have opened a realm with it. But I can either reopen that portal or I can reset the portal and play new cards to make a new realm. But these cards affect the biome and the type of realm that it is with. So generally speaking, it's what types of things spawn there, as far as I can tell. Still kind of early in the game, so I don't entirely know them. And then you have these minor cards, which you can play at a specific zone in a realm. You can find this little structure that you can play a minor card, which will add an effect to your realm. So there's one that reduces the gravity, so you can you won't take like fall damage and stuff like that. And you can jump a little higher. And there's one that like increases your max stamina and reduces the damage you take, but also the damage you deal. So you can just kind of run around and explore unhindered. I have to have my parasol, otherwise I'll get wet. Being wet reduces your stamina efficiency, I think it is, and but it's also hailing, so I'll take physical damage, which I nearly died to when I was building my my house because I didn't have a roof yet on it. So that was a little daunting. But I'm currently at a point now where I'm trying to get to the next gear score level that I need to get to in order to unlock the next site of power, which those sites of powers are those structures I pointed out before, which allow you to unlock new realm cards that you can play in order to get to unlock new factions and things like that you can interact with and all of that. Now, the issue I'm running into now is I haven't been able as of yet to find an essence trader who trades the next tier of gear. So hopefully I find that soon, because getting my gear, I can get my gear score to 40 really easily right now. That's actually not very hard. The trouble is that getting the gear score up there is as simple as upgrading my gear to green. But from what I can tell, the actual like improvements to that gear, which has gone from gear score of 20 to a gear score of 40 when you go from gray to green, the actual upgrade in quality doesn't seem to be double like the gear score would imply, or doesn't even seem to be really that much improved at all. If I go to my sewing bench, cool, this doesn't actually tell me the stats of the item I'm trying to make. That's really good. That's notes. Okay, well, let me have a look. So I have boots at green. Let me I need to make some leather, so let me go ahead and do that real quick. I have a lot of hide. I kill things very frequently because you need You need a lot of leather or a lot of straps. You can see this is the crafting time I was talking about. It does take a while for some things, and if you're waiting to progress your whole system, if you're trying to progress things and you have to wait on one item type in order to progress anything, if the only way you'll get any more advancement at all is by waiting on one item type, you basically have nothing to do while you sit there, except for, I mean, you could gather more resources, I guess. But there's not really like interesting combat encounters out in the world that you can go and engage with while you wait. There's really nothing to do to kill that time except sit here and watch it. Interestingly, too, so if I go back in here and I want to make a bunch of leather, so if I put this in here, so I need 2 pelts to make 1 leather, and then I can increase the number of pelts that I spend in order to increase the amount of leather. Obviously increases the time. That's 2 minutes and 40 seconds for 4 leather. Like, try to respect my time, game, please. Not, some people are busy. Like, some people want to do other things in a day. Anyways, if I do that, that's fine. I can just set a bunch of things to craft all at once and just leave it for a while and come back. So you'll often find me crafting things in advance. You kind of have to plan that, which isn't too bad, but again, if you're waiting on something like that to advance, you're missing some materials you didn't realize you needed. Like, it gets frustrating fast. But if I were to try and make a tool, now I don't have the materials right now, but basically, if I was to try and make a tool, you can't actually queue up more than one tool to make at a time for whatever reason. So I would just autofill and then craft and then autofill again while I wait for it to finish crafting, and then craft it as soon as it's ready, and then autofill again. So because I've like I said, that's how I've been getting my essence dust for the most part right now, is doing that and just deconning things. But kind of weird. Just like I said, one of those weird inconsistencies that this game has that I just don't understand why that is the way that it is. But not the worst thing in the world. Now, what I do want to point out is the one moment that I got really frustrated with this game last night. Everything else I've been so far I've been like, yeah, this is fine. For the most part, it's fairly fun. The resource gathering is pretty straightforward, pretty fun. But what really bothered me last night was trying to climb a mountain. Now, it was clear that the game wanted me to climb this sheer cliff face, essentially. So I made some climbing picks. Now, when you're running around in the world, you can sometimes the game is not very clear about what surfaces it allows us on, but you can actually oh my god, it's not even going to let me do it, is it? There we go. So you can actually climb up on certain edges like that. But it's pretty hard to tell which ones sometimes will let you do it. Some that are like at like knee length or waist height won't let you do it for whatever reason. Except, weirdly enough, if I go down to my stupid door here that's like a foot off the ground, that climbs up fine. Don't know why. Don't know why you wouldn't just jump, because you can jump that high, but whatever. But the climbing picks, this has got to be the most frustrating thing in this game by a mile for me. This is really obnoxious. So I'm trying to find a decent surface here. So this rock face here, you can climb it. That's pretty clear. But this rock face here, ooh, oh, you got it. Okay. But this is the climbing. Oh my god, for the most part does not. Come on, climb up there. The climbing for the most part does not work half the time. There's a lot of times where you're just trying to get up a cliff face and it just won't latch on for whatever reason. Now when it does latch on, you notice the stamina goes down super fast. You're not going to get very far anyways. I feel like I'm going to have to make specific climbing gear just so I'll have the stamina capacity to actually make it somewhere. with some of the climbing I've had to do. Like it took me forever to get up that mountainside, and I tried from a billion different angles, and I couldn't get anywhere. So like this, I jumped twice there and it didn't let me up, but this one angle, it was like, oh yeah, there's a thing there I can climb onto. That's fine. I don't even know how I slipped off there. That's super weird. So there we go. Okay, I can climb up that way. Now this will probably climb. Yeah, see, that works fine. Can't make it up there. I don't have the stamina capacity right now. I need to eat, but basically the climbing in this game is running around, jumping at rock faces, praying you don't slip off when you land from inevitably not being able to latch on for whatever reason. And it's, by the way, it's automatic too. I can't click because clicking just swings my climbing picks, because I assume you can use them as weapons. Never bothered because I doubt they do very much damage. They don't attack very fast. Oh, you can double swing after 2 singular swings. So I guess there's that. That might be decent. I don't know. I wish I could. I want to dual wield knives. I just want to run around like a little rogue. Can't do that. There's no dual wielding as far as I know. Maybe later on the tech tree I'll get that. But the main person you interact with is Puck. He's a ferryman. He shows up. He is fully voice acted, but none of the other NPCs are. I met Victor Frankenstein, and he's not voice acted. I'm assuming they just haven't gotten. They knew that wasn't going to be a high priority task. I get that. That's totally fair. It's early access. They'll probably be voice acted in the future, or maybe they won't be. I don't know. I assume certain characters probably will be, like Victor Frankenstein, the lady from the main like faction that you meet in your first realm. She'll probably be voice acted. Some of that stuff. I doubt the like NPC recruits. Like, oh, where did he go? You probably saw him walking around. His name is Joe. I have an NPC recruit. He probably will. These guys won't be voice acted. They don't even have any dialogue right now. You just like manage their equipment. Yeah. Overall, it's fun. The gathering resources stuff isn't too bad right now. I feel like later on it'll probably be pretty rough. I feel like this is a game that's going to be more fun in a party. I feel like if I'm solo, I'm just not going to get much out of my time in this game, because like I said, with the crafting times and the gathering resources and stuff like that, at higher tiers, that's probably going to be really obnoxious. Having to refine everything into stuff and waiting for it, and probably having to have multiple of each refining station just so I can, split up the amount of time that it takes to do stuff. But the frustrating thing is, if you're crafting or you're building on your property, which is marked by this little effigy thing here, for whatever reason, crafting and building on your property does not pull from these inventories, these storage baskets, or anything like that. It only from your personal inventory on your person. So you have to be carrying the stuff around, and if you have a lot to build and you don't have a decent backpack or whatever, you be slow walking around your whole goddamn complex looking for the station you got to drop stuff off at, and it's very tedious. It's another one of those basic things you would think that's like a basic quality of life thing, that with the survival crafting genre having been so popular for so long, by this point you would think it would be pretty much expected that games would have stuff like that, especially when you have a dedicated plot of land marked by an effigy that you have to build in order to be able to build your base on that land. Seems really weird, but maybe they'll fix that in the future. I assume a lot of people are asking for it. A lot of people are confused why it's not there, so I'm assuming they'll fix that in the future. The combat it's fine. There's a pretty big issue with enemies that just rush at you and they don't really do anything else. There's no strategy. There's no, you basically just getting swarmed, running away to regen your stamina. So you basically, I feel like the only way to play this game is with ranged weapons, which there are ranged weapons. There's good ranged weapons. I've used them in the test server. So I feel like once once I get to the ranged weapon stuff, that might not be as much of a problem. But as it stands, uh, just getting swarmed by enemies constantly and having to run away to regen my stamina is not the most fun gameplay. There's also the bosses. I've only fought a couple of bosses so far, and they don't really have any mechanics to them. They just have a couple of attacks, like a ranged one and a close up one, and you hide behind a pillar for the ranged one, and then you dodge around the close up one, and then you hit them in their weak spots as much as you can before you have to run away again and regen your stamina, which is stamina management is really frustrating. There's not a lot of things I can do to mitigate it at this stage of the game, but later on I'm sure I could build for stamina if I wanted to. There's definitely stamina efficiency modifiers, things like that. As it stands, it's just kind of weak. It's kind of frustrating to deal with how little stamina I have. You notice that sprinting doesn't drain stamina that fast, actually, but basically everything else does. Holding onto my umbrella, which for the trajectory of the umbrella, because you still fall really quickly, like downwards. You're not really gliding forward with it. I don't think the stamina investment is really balanced around that. I feel like there's too much stamina drain for how quickly you fall. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So oftentimes I don't even use the glide. It's useful for some things, like in the swamp, avoiding the diseased water can be useful for that. But even then, you can just equip a dagger and just dodge way easier. But overall, I am enjoying it. I think the combat needs a little bit more flavor to it. Just having a stamina meter to manage, that every action will drain it, and having no way to like quickly regain it in combat is really frustrating. Just having to run away and hide, and it so it breaks up the pace of the combat, and it's not very fun in that regard. Hasn't been too much of an issue yet, but it does just prolong fights because you're just hiding behind pillars waiting for that bar to refresh and slamming down stakes so that you can get your max stamina back up. It's really basic. It's not that bad though. I'm sure more stuff will be added to it. I think they probably have. I think there's like these other boss fights that you can do that are a lot more involved and in depth and have to and require a lot more preparation. But I haven't gotten to them yet. That'll be a while down the road. This is just my early thoughts as the game has come out. Very, very cool idea for what it is so far. Pretty fun. Haven't delved into the lore too much. The lack of voice acting makes it a little bit hard. I don't want to sit there and read forever. And there's a lot to read in this game. There's a lot of just notes that you can find and stuff, and they just have paragraphs on paragraphs of stuff to read, and I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure the lore is probably cool. For the most part, it's like you're in the Feywilds. There's Shakespeare references with Puck and Oberon. There's some cool like Leshen designs and other folklore like that. There's automatons and there's weird like passive creatures. Like I found these elephants with like Spinosaurus spines on them or Dimetrodon spines on them, whatever you prefer. But it's a good start. I think I'm going to enjoy this game for quite a while to come. Still, I really want to get to the part where I can have guns and do magic, and it just sounds like a really cool concept. It like makes me think of Witchfire. Witchfire I really enjoyed for how simple it is. But that's all my thoughts so far. Let me know what you think if you've played it in the comments. I look forward to seeing where this thing goes, and I wish the team at Inflexion all the best. I think they have a good concept here. I also wanted to point out really quick, the lighting looks way better now than it did on the test build. I don't know if they just didn't build production quality lighting in Unreal and they just did like test lighting, but the lighting looks so much goddamn better. They're using the Lumen engine, so it's dynamic global illumination, so everything looks just just gorgeous. It really ties together well. I mean, granted, my character still looks that face just gets me every time. I mean, there's small things like the doors aren't animated, so they just kind of like, you see them kind of fade in and out because the lighting is updating on them because there's no animation. I'm sure they'll add animations to them at some point, or maybe they won't. It's not like a big deal if they do or don't. That's just a small thing I noticed and thought it was kind of funny. Skyboxes are great too. The desert place that I went to, holy shit, its skybox is cool. I'd go, but I don't want to wait for the load screen right now. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!
Woo.